Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Scares That Shaped Us, a podcast about horror writers and the stories that made them. I'm your host, Matthew Jackson. It's our first show of 2026. Hope the new year is treating everyone okay so far. I'm doing a real short intro again this week because this is part 2 of our Best of 2025 special. Last week, we had Sadie Hartman here to talk about the best horror books of the year. And this week, we have our friend Matt Donato, who you will know from writing about horror films all over the internet and hosting the Certified Forgotten podcast, is here. And we're going to talk about the best horror movies of 2025. It's pretty much the same format as the books. We each picked 10. We talked about our 10. A lot of times we overlapped, so you got double the enthusiasm about something. You come away with a lot of cool movie recommendations from this conversation if you're still looking to catch up on your 2025 viewing. And I just always have a lot of fun talking to Donato whenever I get a chance. So let's head over there right now to our interview with Matt Donato. To talk about the best horror films of 2025 is one of the best horror critics on the web. He is the lead critic over at Daily Dead, and you can find him at many other places like IGN, Inverse, Fangoria, Bloody Disgusting, and he is also the co-founder and co-host of Certified Forgotten, which is a podcast and website devoted to underappreciated, underseen genre films. Matt Donato, welcome to the show.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me to talk about some of my favorites of the year.
I just mentioned Certified Forgotten, which is a wonderful podcast and website. I have been lucky enough to be on this podcast. We talked about a really cool vampire movie from the 80s called Pale Blood. For anyone who doesn't know, could you just give us the quick pitch? What is Certified Forgotten all about?
Yeah, the quick pitch is Certified Forgotten is exactly what you explained. We really do try to shine a light on the underseen and for quote unquote forgotten horror movies because, I mean, no horror movie is ever forgotten. It has its fan base, and we try to play to those fan bases. So the concept is every time we have one of our main episodes, we bring a guest on from the horror industry, let's say, whether that's a journalist, director, actor, and they bring us a horror movie that they love. But the criteria is it has to be 10 or less critic reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. So we really want to hone in on not only like quote unquote forgotten films, or I don't know, when someone posts online and they're like, oh, this movie is so underrated, but like it's been reviewed by 150 people and like it has like a 90%. And I'm like, that's not underrated. So we challenged ourselves to be like, can we do a podcast with strictly horror movies with 10 or less critic reviews on Rotten Tomatoes? We're over 100 guest episodes. There are plenty more movies to do. People keep coming to us being like, yo, I want to champion this. Let's go. So we're going strong. We found plenty. And as you said, like exactly, tell the people what you brought and why.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I literally behind the scenes sent Donato a DM like a week ago saying, hey, if you ever want to do this insane Christmas horror movie sequel, I am down. It's a really cool format to play with. What are some of your favorite like discoveries that you've made doing this with? I should mention your co-host is our friend Matt Monagle, who is another great writer and podcaster who used to live here in Austin and has now moved up to the Northeast. We miss you, Matt. What are some of the things that y'all have discovered in doing this show that stick out to you as like, oh, this is one of my favorite movies now?
Yeah, so as you said that, I have a handy dandy letterbox list of every movie we've covered and my ranking of them. Like, we appreciate every guest who brings us a movie. It's not a judgment on them, but you know, everyone has their own taste. So I just like have a running tally for myself, being like, what were the ones that I really love? And I got to give Brad McHargue credit because my number one discovery. So like, listen, Demon Wind is my number one. That's the number one on my list because I'm a fucking maniac. But that's not a discovery for me because I saw that and we were lucky enough to talk about somebody else with that. So discovery wise, like he brought this movie, The Last Will and Testament of Rosalind Lee.
Yeah.
And I had not seen it yet. He brought it up, he teed it up, and I knew Brad's sense of horror and his style, but I wasn't ready for how like foreboding and broody, but also like entirely sincere and deeply dramatic Last Will and Testament is. So that just absolutely blew me away. Another one I got to shout out. Tori Potenza brought a movie called Helter Skelter, and it is just madness. It is fashion infused, manga infused J horror, and I again never heard of it, never anything about it. So the fact that like I get to movies like that brought to me and they're on my radar now forever and going to be things that I recommend. Movies like Rattle the Cage, Norway. I'm just like going down this list being like what are stuff that like I really got like brought to my attention. Yeah, we've got a lot here.
Yeah.
I'm now overwhelmed looking at it, but no, I love Discovery, so that's why.
Well, shout out to Brad McHarg, who is a friend of mine. Has not been on the show yet, but I'm sure will be one of these days because he keeps making cool horror stuff. Uh, Last Will and Testament of Rosalind Lee is great. It is if y'all want like a horror movie that is vibes, that is all about like we're just gonna make you feel creepy for, and it's short too. It's like 80 minutes or something. That is a really cool sort of cult religious horror hybrid thing, if I'm remembering it correctly. But I remember loving that movie.
I would say
Um,
even like going deeper than that, we talk about so often quote unquote trauma horror and how that got used and abused as a theme after Hereditary and The Babadook. But if you go back to Rosalind Lee, like I think it's a really great example of before that even became popular, just how to use traumatic themes and weave them into a really haunted story. Like
mhm.
it's even-handed. It is as scary as it is just like deeply affecting. So yeah, I 100%. Like I just had that thought right now. Like damn, like they were doing trauma horror before trauma horror was even a thing.
They really were. Yeah, I love that movie. But we're not here to talk about movies released in previous years. We are talking about horror movies released in 2025. So, uh, Brad has already released. Brad, good lord, Brad's in my brain now. Hey, Brad. We love you, buddy. Donato has already published his top 20 horror TV shows and films list over on inverse.com. You can read that. My top 10 horror film list is up at dreadcentral.com. So you can go and read everything we're about to talk about, but we're going to have a good time talking about it anyway. And because we have to rank these for our jobs, when I do the best book special, I do it in alphabetical order by author, but we already had to rank these for our jobs. So we're going to count down from 10 to 1. And Donato, because you are my guest, I will let you go first. What's your number 10 pick for 2025?
My number 10 is already gonna ruffle feathers, let's say. It's him. I
It's
understand.
him.
Oof, him's the goat. It's not the goat, but it's up there for me this year. And I am still slightly confused by the reception to it being so vehemently negative because I understand why people might not like him. It is a vibes movie above everything. It's a sports horror vibes movie. It is basically Opus, but for a football player. And saying all that and recognizing that, it still worked for me so well because as like a football and horror fan and someone who doesn't see sports integrated enough into my favorite genre, I think that while it is a lot of style over substance, like it looks like a Gatorade commercial half the time, but that's kind of the satire. That's exactly what it's playing into.
Yeah.
It is in your face with its themes about why the NFL is so dodgy and seedy. But then you think about like NFL fans, and yeah, you don't need to be subtle with them. You need to be in their face so they actually see stuff. So I think there's a lot of smash mouthness about this movie. It again is not gonna tiptoe around things. It's gonna hit you in the face. And sure, are they obvious? Of course, but that's what the movie plays into. So I think for those reasons, him is wild. It is so stylistic alone. The score is absolutely amazing. So I just even if you're not a person who likes being hit in the head with the themes, there's still so much more to appreciate. So yeah, I was I'll say it, confused by how much this movie was hated.
I was too because I didn't actually see it in theaters. I was out of town or something when the screening happened, so I didn't go. And then I heard from everybody that it was terrible, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just watch this eventually, whatever. And my friend Kate Sanchez, I saw her at Fantastic Fest, and she started talking, she started pitching this movie to me because she's a football fan, I'm a football fan. She said, "There's a lot of football stuff in this movie. You will like it." And then so when it hit VOD, I watched it and I was sort of taken aback by, it's not in my top 10. It's not like I don't think it was one of the greatest of the year for me, but I really had a good time watching it, and I really liked, like you said, it is an in your face movie. It is a big, broad strokes. We are going to make this as stylized as we possibly can movie, and I had a really good time with it. And I'm so glad that I keep seeing more and more people online going like, "Hey, I finally watched him. That's actually a really good movie." So yeah, I like him a lot. I'm glad that we're a team him podcast. That makes me happy. My number 10, and this was tough. Like number one has been number one for most of the year. Getting 10 through like 5 down was tricky for me. It always is, but my number 10 is Hard Eyes. Big fan of Josh Rubin in general, as a filmmaker and as a person. He's a great dude. I was excited to see what he and Christopher Landon and Michael Kennedy, what that combo did in a slasher. I was not disappointed. I was just so delighted, especially because it genuinely works as a romantic comedy as well as a slasher. I just had so much fun with Hard Eyes.
Yeah, this is higher up for me even, so I am gonna say I agree with you. I'm actually taking a glance. It is my number four. Well, let me say it this way. I was surprised upon finishing my top 10 how much studio stuff was in it because, usually I'm a good 50-50 sell for, indies and studio at the end of the year. It's just how it kind of shakes out. And actually in like recent years, indies have overtaken the studio stuff. Like I haven't been as impressed, but stuff like Hard Eyes this year stood out for me in a way that I think is exciting to see, with a bigger budget, with all that other stuff, like you just said, there's a lot of spotlight on Hard Eyes, and it comes out swinging. You are 100% correct. The chemistry between the leads is phenomenal. You get the romantic quirks. You also get like the hard-hitting slasher elements and the really gory kills that I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
sure if we were going to get both of those things. I thought we were going to get one or the other, but Josh Rubin in charge, he does the slasher stuff right.
He does. And I will just take this opportunity while we're talking about him to say, give Josh Rubin a Darkman movie. He deserves it. Let him have his Darkman. Uh, so we're up to number 9 for you, Donato. What do you got?
That is going to be the Fantastic Fest favorite, Dead Talent Society.
Which I have not seen. I missed it
Um,
at the fest. So tell us about it.
it is a fantastic little import that I like the way I described it is Monsters Inc. and Beetlejuice, but also with like a Christopher Guest sports comedy tied in. It's
Oh,
all of those
wow.
things because what happens is when you die in the afterlife, to become this celebrity and to become actually like to earn your keep in the afterlife, you have to be this like top tier scarer. So people become celebrities by being the best scarer in the afterlife, and you start to get rivalries. You get the veterans, the rookies, and that's where the sportsness of it all comes in. So it is ultimately a comedy about a young ghost who is trying to find their way and be the top-notch scare, but like they're not good at it, so they have to get taken under the wing. The reluctant veteran has to like show the ropes. The manager is also like the plucky manager who has to inspire confidence. And then at the same time, you're getting these hilarious sequences from reality, I guess to call it, the real world, where humans are like in these terrifying haunted scenarios. And then you get the backstage of it and how those come to be, and it's all just chaotic and goofy and silly. So the juxtaposition, the way the film plays that, I had so much fun with it. I think Dead Talent Society just unfortunately suffered because the Netflix curse. It's an international horror movie. It got bought by Netflix out of whatever festival, and then nobody ever heard of it again until it dropped on streaming with no announcement. So like there was no ad, there was no nothing, no one knows it's there. Fuck Netflix when they do that shit.
Yeah, it's been a weird thing the way that that has evolved because it used to be like, oh, streaming is gonna free us. Like any filmmaker can like get a break with a streaming movie, and I suppose that's still true, but it's one of those things where the fans just kind of have to do it themselves because so many of these things just sort of unceremoniously, like, you and I are professional horror critics. We do this daily. I still hear about stuff regularly where I'm like, wait, that's out? When did it come out? Who put it out? Why didn't I hear about this? And yeah, I had until you said that, I had no idea it was on Netflix.
And exactly, that's the problem. I think, unfortunately, like it is usually Netflix when that arises, because I think other studios and streamers do a little better job of that, especially a niche one like Shutter, Screenbox, or something. They're
Yeah.
always advertising, but man, like streaming is more of a purgatory in those senses. And Netflix, unfortunately, just deprioritizes international films for the US audiences because, in their mind, again, it's content. That's just another title that shows up. And if somebody discovers it, sure, that's great. So, yeah, it's really disappointing because Dead Talent Society was just basically fucking statistic fodder.
Everybody go to Netflix and watch Dead Talent Society. I'm gonna do it because I've been meaning to watch it. Now that I know that you're so hot on it, I definitely will. My number nine is one of those films that started gaining buzz earlier in the year, and now I feel like the backlash has grabbed hold of it, and I'm gonna fight back against the backlash. It's Good Boy, which I did not get to see at South by Southwest when it came through. I had to wait and see it in the fall. I got a screener like before it hit theaters, and I loved it. And I mean, yeah, I'm a dog person. I know you are too. So like that, it has me in that way that like I as a dog person, I really appreciate it. But even having said that and knowing I'm a mark for this kind of thing, I really can't overstate what an amazing performance they got out of Indy the dog in Good Boy. Uh, a haunted house movie with where the lead character is a dog is a fun little elevator pitch, but you always wonder how that's going to work for 90 minutes. It works. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I am very much Team Good Boy. It's not in my top 10, but it definitely is one of the more fun films I saw this year. And I think for me, the story outside of indie, some of the storytelling with like the human character, let's say, like that struggled for me a little bit. But when you're watching Good Boy, you're watching it for the gimmick. You're watching it to see if the dog can pull this off. And hands down, Indy's performance is so genuine and authentic. And, that's because the filmmakers used their real dog and they used him in natural settings and just filmed around him. So very smart because yeah, when like Indy's concerned, that's because Indy's already concerned for their owner and stuff. So very smart way of doing it. And for that, it absolutely crushes the gimmick. It absolutely comes through with like everything that you want to do on that sense of it. So it's a winner. It's a winner for that alone.
That's also a film that I think a lot of younger people who are just starting to get into horror and maybe don't want to go full tilt with gore and with really bleak stuff, you could turn on Good Boy and you'd probably feel a little better about it. But yeah, I saw a lot of people going like, "Oh, it's just emotionally manipulating you with the dog," and I'm like, first of all, every story is emotionally manipulating you. That's how stories work. And second of all, I don't care because it's good.
Yeah, like if it's good, who gives a shit? Like that's the argument I always make against familiarity is like I don't care if something's familiar as long as it's good. That's what matters.
Yes, this is the drum I beat a lot too. Is like, yeah, I know all the formulas for a slasher movie, but if you roll those formulas out and you do them well, then I'm not going to complain. Yeah, I had a good time. Um, so what are we up to now? Are we up to your number eight? I think. So what's your eight?
I'm gonna throw Sinners here. I am obviously a
Hmm.
Sinners fan, as most people are. Weirdly enough, me putting it at 8, I know is a little lower than most, but I think there was a little bit of drag at points. I think it was just a bigger story than it had to be, and it kind of took a little too long in some spots. But all the positives that everyone talks about are fucking true. I mean, like, there's no argument about it. It's brilliant historical horror. It's brilliant music theory horror through a From Dusk Till Dawn lens, and except using it with juke joints in that period, and the inherent racism and everything about that. Like Ryan Coogler crushed this movie outside of my complaints, and me having to quantify it being my number 8. It's still my number 8 of the year for a reason, and I am just up and down. Like for the Critics' Choice, I nominated multiple performances, just trying to get them noticed, and I think Wumi Masaku did make it for Best Supporting. So I'm so happy to see that because I think she does a phenomenal job. But man, everyone's been talking about Sinners forever. We all know why it's good at this point. So it's like I'm just on that board.
It's it's my number one on my list. And I honestly struggled to articulate why because I was like, we've all said all the things about why Sinners is so great at this point, and we've said them multiple times. but it's true. And I think one of the reasons that it ended up number one for me is I'm also a mark for like the history of American blues music. That is something that I've been fascinated by since I was like 12 years old and first started playing guitar around the house. Just the legends surrounding people like Robert Johnson and Son House and all those guys was always really interesting to me. And so when this movie like opens in like Clarksville, Mississippi, I'm like, oh shit, okay, this is I also think that it was the best looking horror film released this year. It's beautiful. Ludwig Göransson obviously crushed the score. Great performances all around. It's yeah, I love Sinners, and again, like what else can you say about it? It's Sinners at this point. Everybody loves Sinners. So yeah, we're both on Team Sinners at different levels of Team Sinners, but we're all in there. We're in the tank for Sinners. What is your? Oh wait, no, I guess it's my turn. So number 8 for me, and I know this is on your list too. It's The Ugly Stepsister, which I adore. That's one of those movies where, and I know you encounter this too. You when you do this regularly, like we do, or if you're just a horror fan who watches a lot of horror movies, you start hearing buzz around something going like, no, this movie freaked me out. This movie had me like cringing in my seat. I was covering my eyes. I couldn't watch. And you're like, yeah, okay. Okay. Like I've I've seen Sallow, okay? I've seen Martyrs. I'll be fine. And then I watched The Ugly Stepsister and legit, like the body horror absolutely got to me in a way that even something like The Substance did not. It's to me it is so much more like visceral and detailed and emotionally complex than I love The Substance, but like it's being compared to that, but I think it's a little bit of a different beast.
Yeah, well, because to me, The Substance is a fucking trauma movie on a big budget, or, big quote unquote, but it is a mainstream trauma movie. It is pure B movie madness where The Ugly Stepsister is unsettling and nauseating because it's just playing off of different types of plastic surgery just from the olden times when like that's all you had was a hammer and a chisel. It's nothing far-fetched, which is crazy to say because when you watch The Ugly Stepsister, that final scene is holy shit. I am so good about not feeling queasy during horror movies, and I was sitting in Sundance going, am I gonna make it through this scene? So it earns its reputation 100%. It's actually my number one, so this is my number one of the year. I had this early on, knowing this is, going to be hard to beat, and lo and behold, we're at the end of the year, and it still is. It's right here, but I think Emily Blichfeld, the director, is just astonishingly impressive because this is a feature debut and it is directed with more confidence than I have seen in so many studio films throughout the year last year. Like this shouldn't be as poised, polished. The vision is just so creative and original, and I know it's just like a grim, Cinderella story. Like it's playing with what's already there. Like this story has been told before, just in literature. But to me, it feels like blending a little bit of the great into that dark, broody, bloody fairy tale element. So you get some comedy popping through, and
Yeah, it's really funny. Yeah. I can't say enough good things about The Ugly Stepsister. If y'all missed that one, absolutely go back and watch it. Um, so we're up to number 7 for you. What's your number 7?
this is where we're going to throw Mr. Kreger's Weapons because I had plenty of good time with Weapons. I know it's a feel bad movie, but it's, feels good to feel bad sometimes. And I like the twists, the turns. I do think Barbarian's a little better with keeping us in such suspense and then hitting us with like a just astounding reveal. I think Weapons is a little more predictable is a dumb word to use in this sense because it still is off the wall, but it's a little easier to follow, and I don't think it lands as well in those terms. But outside of that complaint, the way that it does a suburban witch tale is something that I was not expecting, and it was something that I think has been sung through praise of Amy Madigan playing Gladys. Like we know how good she is, and we know that that brings the horror into this film, and it's just got great performances. It's a chilly story. It does a lot of good with the urban and taking like forest uh, demon kind of stuff and throwing it into like a suburban atmosphere, like I said before. So I was, yeah, I was along for this ride, and also one of my favorite endings or finales in any horror movie I've seen this year. It's just it sells.
Yeah, Weapons is number two on my list. I had the best time watching this with a packed house, especially for stuff like that climactic moment, which I we won't spoil in case y'all haven't seen, because you just need to watch that happen. Um, but it I came into it loving Barbarian. I think one of the reasons it hit for me a little harder is like my sister's a school teacher, so I was very much in line with the Julia Garner character. I love her performance in this. I love Josh Brolin's performance as this just sort of defeated man who's trying to gain some control back in his life after everything fell apart on him. And Alden Ehrenreich is so funny in this movie. Like he's a mess. He's a complete mess, but he's so good at being a mess. Like I could see him like leading a season of Fargo. That's the kind of character Alden Ehrenreich is in this movie. Um, and yeah, it all builds to that amazing climax. The weapons run, as I call it, is one of my favorite horror movie things of the year. It's just so haunting and strange. And yeah, Zach Cregger is making he's making studio horror, but he's doing it in a way that very much has this kind of indie spirit of, I'm not going to hit the beats you think I'm going to hit. I'm going to swerve on you as often as I can. I'm going to play with form. I'm going to play with time. Um, yeah, I can't wait to see what he does next, because I love the hell out of this movie.
Resident Evil, baby.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we're getting what, the third cinematic incarnation of Resident Evil from Zach Cregger.
Justice for Raccoon City, but yes.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I've never been like a Resident Evil guy, but I'm happy to see whatever Resident Evil stuff people cook up, because that's one of the cool things about that concept is like you can just keep playing with it and spinning it out into new things. Um, so we did your number seven. My number seven is there was someone on Blue Sky today that was asking like what piece of art brought you the most joy in 2025, and I was trying to think like what's my honest answer to that, and it might be this: it's Queens of the Dead. Tina Romero's Queens of the Dead, which I went into feeling good about. Like, you always hope that any movie you watch is going to be good, but I had heard wonderful things. I went into it going like, all right, I think I'm going to have a good time with this, and I came away just feeling just like floating on air over just how much fun I had with these characters and this scenario, and the way that it is very clearly like a Romero coded zombie film, obviously, but it has so much fun with what it's doing.
There is, to me, we were able to talk to Tina out of Brooklyn Horror. That was our Certified Forgotten podcast this year, where we got to do live. And, it was so fun talking with her for an hour just about all that stuff. And hearing, where she came from, a place of being a DJ in a queer space and not being a filmmaker yet. And, really taking that stab and trying to differentiate from Pops. Obviously, George is who he is. But this is Tina's movie. It's her style. It's her everything. It never feels like she is in the Nepo baby conversation of, just trying to follow in footsteps, where like she is taking her own strides. She is taking her own direction, and it all comes through here. I think this is it. Queens is such a fun movie. It's so incredibly fun.
I will also say, if you want me to watch your movie, put Katie O'Brien in it.
Oh my
Like,
God. The best.
I love her in so many things. Like, she was my favorite part of The Running Man. She's not in it enough, but she was my favorite part of that. She's my favorite part of this. Uh, she's fantastic in it. It's just such a beautiful, fun movie. But that brings us to Donato's number six. What are we talking about?
We're gonna go with a Sean Byrne movie called Dangerous Animals.
Hell
I
yeah.
really, really love this movie. It's a lot in part because of Jai Courtney. Like, I'm not going to argue that. I think Jai Courtney is in his element playing just a deranged lunatic. Like, that is what he needs to be doing. I say with complete sincerity that his best role so far is Captain Boomerang. And it's just, he needs to have that funness, but also deviance about him. And playing Tucker, the serial killer on a fucking shark boat that just kicks people in the water and watches them get eaten. And he does the whole creep thing where he videotapes and he has a tape collection. Like, it's so seedy and gross. Like, all of that stuff is just so well done. And Sean Byrne is just one of those directors that we don't get nearly enough from. There are directors who are pumping out one movie every 2 years, and I really wish that was Sean Byrne because he takes these 7 year gaps, 7, 8 year gaps in between movies, and he's done nothing but bangers between this, The Loved Ones, and The Devil's Candy. Like, fucking 3 for 3 in such grand fashion.
Yeah, The Devil's Candy is still my favorite Sean Byrne movie. And anyone who hasn't seen that, it's streaming somewhere right now. I know it is. Just go find it. It's so great. Dangerous Animals is not in my top 10, but I had so much fun watching it. Jai Courtney is great. That scene where it's literally just this is one of those things that I sort of gauge actors on is like if I see a scene where I can sort of tell that the way it was written was just sort of okay, you're in the galley of the ship, just fuck around. Yeah, there's a scene where he is just getting fucked up in the galley and he's dancing. There's a picture of him that was one of the big PR images they sent out of him dancing with a bottle of liquor in his hand, in his robe with his shirt open, and you see his shark bite scars and all that. Um, him being able to make that fun for however long that scene goes on is proof of just how in his element he was. I want more of those kind of roles for him, and yeah, I want more Sean Byrne movies because he has not made a bad one yet. So that brings us to my number 6, which is Together, which I enjoyed so much. Uh, I love the real life husband and wife teaming of that, and I love that they were not afraid. This is one of those movies, like so much of like relationship horror and horror that's focused on how couples come together and or fall apart and or do both. It feels like they only ever want to talk about like big broad things. So many of them are just about like this is about the big issue that we have. Together is interesting because it's about like 30 smaller issues that these people have with each other which is what happens when you've been in a relationship for a really long time and certain things go stale and certain things change and you react in a different way because you're just so locked in and you feel and it turns into you sort of feeling trapped, and that's kind of what Together is. uh yeah, I love it, and the body horror is great as well.
I was gonna say the bathroom scene, which I ain't gonna say much more of
Oh, the
because
bathroom scene, yes.
that is some of my favorite body horror stuff that I have seen in a while, and it's so simple. It is body horror distilled to its core because it is just bodies. There's nothing society-esque about it. It's not like crazy pulsating shit, all the ooey gooey. Like, it's just kind of bodies and the
Yeah,
way they come together. And oh man, yeah, Franco and Brie playing it as a real life couple and letting that just all hang out, it makes it so much better because like you're just able to understand and see where they're coming from in such a better light because they've been through these conversations probably already. Like there is an actual chemistry here. There's no forcedness. There's no fakeness. Like this is a real couple here, and you see that on the screen, and it helps so tremendously.
I also just love for speaking of great endings, I love the ending of Together, and I won't tell anybody what happens, but I was kind of surprised that they went there, and it made me happy that they went there. Um, I also just love how small the body horror begins, especially because the trailers really played up like, okay, at some point these two are going to have to use a power saw on each other. Like that's in the trailer. You know that this shit's going to get serious, but it starts so small with them just like, "Wait, why is your leg stuck to my leg?" Cuz they're sleeping next to each other and they're just like, "Wait, what? What? Hey, hang on, that hurt. Why did you stick to me? I don't know. Why did you stick to me? It must be something weird in this room. Okay, let's move on with our life." And it just has that lovely build to it, and it when you couple it with the character work that they're doing, it really it's a great watch. Okay, number five. What is your number five?
It's gonna be the rule of Jenny Penn. And I slept on this myself because it played Fantastic Fest, and I read the synopsis and was kind of like, it's late at night. I don't know if this is gonna keep me awake. I don't know if this is a movie for right now. So, I know it's going to Shutter. I'll catch it later. I did. I caught it later. I waited till it went to Shutter, and I was kicking myself because I fucking dig this movie. It is a psychological thriller in a really fucking existentially brilliant way. It is just dealing with nursing homes, and it is dealing with the latter part of life. And Jeffrey Rush has a stroke, has to go recover in a nursing home, and he finds out that John Lithgow is like the tyrant who has taken control and just gets away with whatever he wants because he has this little baby doll named Jenny Penn that he fucks around with, and he uses it to torment all the other like elders who are like in the home. It's again another movie that I think starts small in its microaggressions. It's as simple as, somebody kicking somebody under the table and getting them in trouble with the attendees and things like that. And it escalates into full blown like psychotic horror because I think what the film does brilliantly is as Jeffrey Rush's character is dealing with this after effects of a stroke and his memory isn't there. There's certain things that are starting to fade, and the story goes along with that. Like you're seeing it from his perspective. So there are like blackouts in the story. There are things that are happening. You're like, is he actually seeing this correctly or is this in his head? And all of that translates into a really sick and twisted horror movie. And A plus Lithgow. Like Lithgow is going mental this whole time and just having such fun with it. So there's a lot of a lot of young horror out there with kids and slashers and all that stuff, but we don't get that like older era of horror. And I think Rule of Jenny Penn is a really good example of what you can accomplish with that kind of storytelling.
It is so good. Not in my top 10, but I had a great time watching it. The performances are incredible. The way that James Ashcroft is the director. I wanted to make sure to name the director who also co-wrote it because the way that they shoot Jenny Penn, because again, Jenny Penn is not, when you think about a sinister doll, this is not Chucky. It's not like a thing that gets up in the middle of the night and comes to your bed. It is literally a puppet on his hand, like of this eyeless baby doll. And Ashcroft shoots it in a way that it seems to have a little bit of a life of its own, and you're always sort of wondering how much of this is him and how much of this is the baby doll. And is there any difference? And does it matter that there's any difference? And yeah, Lithgow just goes full, Betty Davis and whatever happened to Baby Jane and just lays into it. And Jeffrey Rush is a phenomenal straight man to Lithgow's antics. And then by the end, they're just at each other's throats. And I love Rule of Jenny Penn. I'm glad that it's still out there getting attention. If you didn't see it, go see it. Um, my number five is 28 Years Later by Mr. Danny Boyle and Mr. Alex Garland. Uh, I was lucky enough to I don't know if you went to the Bone Temple early screenings, but I did. Uh, love the Bone Temple. Bone Temple is going to be up there in the 2026 conversation, I think. But uh, the way this movie builds an entire world while also following in a very understandable, realistic way on what they did at 28 Days Later is phenomenal. And I went in expecting like pure survival horror because the trailers were all, there's a father and a son. They're going to venture out from their little community and have this adventure because the son's got to grow up sometime. And instead it becomes this really moving meditation on life and death and like what it means to honor life when your entire world has essentially been condemned to a slow death, which is what happens to the version of England that exists in that movie. Um, it's when once Ray Fiennes shows up, that movie has me on the verge of tears because it's so wonderfully done, and I love the world building. I love it, looks amazing. Danny Boyle is still that dude who can, rig up a bunch of iPhones and make an incredible looking movie. So yeah, I love 28 Years Later.
And that That shit is maniac. That whole rig of just seeing 20, 40 iPhones, whatever it was, just attached to a single like, board, basically. I was like, good for you. No, I liked the movie. I think the cinematography, talking about some of the best looking horror movies of the year. There are shots in 28 years that I think are up there. Um, I'm more excited for Bone Temple than I am knowing how much I like 28. I just liked it, but I'm really like hoping to love Bone Temple, and I think Nia DaCosta is, a good track record there, so I'm excited for that. But yeah, no, I appreciate a lot of what 28 is doing, and it's just again one of those films that's like, all right, 28 weeks was how long ago? Like, all right, let's reboot it, let's see what happens, and we've had some pretty good track records recently with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we have, and she directs the hell out of Bone Temple in a way that feels like it's her movie and it's not her trying to ape Danny Boyle, which is another notch in the plus column for me. But that's for 2026. We're on to your number four, which I think you already mentioned, didn't
I
you?
was Hard Eyes. You get to go. We're gonna skip
Hard
me.
Eyes.
You get to go right with it.
Hard Eyes. We still love Hard Eyes. All these many minutes later, we like Hard Eyes. So my number four is Frankenstein, by Guillermo del Toro, which I got. I cooled off a little on. To be honest, I when I first saw it, I was dazzled by it and completely in love with it, and then went home and started kind of, and for a while there I was like, it's gonna be Frankenstein and Sinners, number one and number two, who's gonna win? And the more I thought about it, the more I was kind of like, okay, I really love this movie. It's not as good as the other three that I'm mentioning, a couple of which I've already mentioned, but it is beautifully done. It has some wonderful metaphorical stuff in it about the nature of what it means to create, to be a creative person. And ironically, we were just shit talking Netflix, and they God knows have it coming sometimes, but like uh Del Toro did, this was his dream project, and Netflix made it happen. And then in the middle of the movie, he goes off on this whole art and commerce riff with Christoph Waltz as this, you know, shady businessman who's funding all of this stuff, and it becomes this like amazing little art commerce riff. I love the mommy issues in it. It's so like, ugh, oh yeah, okay, I kind of understand where this dude is, and I like pretty much all the performances, but Jacob Elordi is next level as the creature. Like, he's up there with Karloff for me in the role. It's really one of my favorite performances of the year.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see if he breaks through for Academy consideration. It's just one of those things that I always sour a little bit on for the Academy. Maybe not Critics' Choice and stuff like that, but the Academy's track record with horror. I know, Frankenstein is a straightforward horror, all that stuff. Like, yeah, I think because Guillermo's attached, it has way more attention on it because Guillermo has broken through and he has been lauded by the Oscars. So I think Jacob has a shot. I'm curious. I think he has a good shot to, I don't know, win it this year. There's a lot of competition, but be nice to see a little bit there. I already think it's going to get in production and stuff like that. So we'll be talking about Frankenstein come the actual Oscar season.
I hope so. I want him to get nominated, just like I want Amy Madigan to get nominated. Um, I think if Leonardo DiCaprio played Frankenstein and said, I literally cut my limbs off and sewed them back on, there'd be an Oscar nomination. But because Jacob did it with makeup and whatnot, they're going to be a little harder on him or something. I don't know, but he deserves it. It's such a great performance, and I loved Oscar Isaac just kind of going full sicko mode in huge chunks of that movie. So yeah, love Frankenstein. What's your number three?
I'll go with the monkey. I really
Ah,
fucking like the monkey. It is Oz Perkins in a way that I did not know Oz had. My relationship with Oz Perkins' filmography is not positive, let's say. I have struggled with him tremendously and really up until Long Legs, where I was like, okay, cool, I can vibe with this a little bit. That was my first positive ever experience. So the monkey hitting right after that, I'm like, holy shit, wait, Oz Perkins has like a Midnighter vibe in him. He can like actually pull out like I know he's got the dark and dreary down pat, but that comedy element, that it, like, more Final Destination-y element, I didn't. So when you have the monkey coming out full force with all these hilarious gore gags, but it's also really like, it's nice and like ponderous about mortality and what death means in the grand scheme and all this stuff. So it's just that really hard King story to adapt into something full length and feature length. And I think he did it tremendously. I think I had a big stupid grin on my face during so much of this movie. And, I don't know what that says about me, knowing how dark this movie and bleak this movie gets. But for me, I just wasn't expecting it. And maybe that's why I put it so high. Oz is he won me over hard with this one and then lost me right again with Keeper.
I saw Keeper when Neon sent their screeners out. I finally sat down and watched it. I enjoyed Keeper. I don't love it. It is the most pure vibes movie that Oz has ever made, which is really saying something because vibes are kind of a big part of his whole deal. Um, I come at it from the opposite end. Like I'm an Oz Perkins guy. I really love the Black Coat's Daughter. I love Gretel and Hansel. That is an amazing movie for me. Um, so I came into it kind of in the bag for Oz, but yeah, it comes at it from such an immediately different place. It does not just that opening scene in the pawn shop, and you're like, what the hell am I about to watch? And then it just keeps building and building and building, and it really feels, but it still feels like his movie. It doesn't feel like, oh, suddenly Zach Kreger stepped in and directed this, or Jordan Peele stepped in, whatever. Um, it's so funny. He's great in it in his little supporting role with an amazing look that he brings. Theo James is so fun playing the dual roles at the center of it. Yeah, love the monkey. It was creeping up close to my top 10, but didn't quite get in there. My number three film is Bring Her Back, which is one of the most harrowing watches of the year for me. I was very, I went in expecting something dark, and all of the darkness that Danny and Michael brought with Talk to Me, they dialed up for this. And it helps that they had Sally Hawkins doing wonderful work. The thing about Sally Hawkins is she has such an earnest face that you can buy the emotional investment she has in whatever she's doing, and the fact that she was doing what she does in this movie what made it so real to me. And it has the scene with the little boy and the kitchen knife, which I can still feel. That was one of those things where like you could just feel every single person in the room go, everybody clenched. Every single person in the theater, it's clenching at the same time, like, oh God, oh God.
What?
And it's also just it was a very moving film to me. I love to Bring Her Back.
Yeah, I mean, because of Talk to Me, and because of these maniac directors that it was gonna go some places, and where it goes in that kitchen and the way that they achieve those practical effects of a child just chewing down on all the things he shouldn't. Oh, yeah, you saying those words again bring back the imagery in my head, and now I'm just like shuddering all over again because that scene is phenomenal.
It is. And even like the stuff near the end with when they find out what's in that freezer, that will stick with me for a really long time. I cannot wait for those guys to make another movie. They leveled up. As much as I love Talk to Me, Bring Her Back feels like a real level up moment. It feels like they grew and had something they really wanted to say with which it was inspired by a personal, like a tragedy in their family. They lost a young child in their extended family, and it really hit them hard, and they made this movie about it, and it shows. It's a hard on your sleeve movie in a very dark way. Um, so I think we've already talked about both of our number ones at this point. What's your number two?
My number two, and it really was close to being my number one. Like I want to say it was neck and neck, but my number two is The Long Walk. I just am. gutted by this beautiful movie. And again, talking about a Stephen King adaptation, we were sitting down and going, how the fuck are you going to adapt a movie where kids just walk to their death the entire time? And the answer is you put together an outstanding ensemble. If there was any justice, they would be mentioned in the Academy in their voting for best casting and ensemble. You put Mark Hamill in the general role and let him just be a proper fucking bastard. And I don't know, maybe you swap the Vietnam era commentary for something that hits even nearer and dear to home in today's fascist fucking world. And you put all those together and you just have this movie that is about camaraderie. It's about hope in fucking hopeless times. It is about so many things, but it is still such a wallop every time it wants to make a point. Every death that they show is heartbreaking. Like this movie just absolutely ruined me, but that is only because it is so effective at what it is doing and the story it is telling. And it's not just cheap because their kids dying. Like that adds to it. Don't get me wrong. Like that is a very big part of why it is so terrible. But how they do it, why they do it, and what is being told through their journey is so important as well. And I think, Francis Lawrence directing, JT Miller, like of Strange Darling fame, writing it, they just got the right people together to make this movie that has been in just hell for decades trying to get made. And they finally put it together. And I think as much as I would have loved to have seen the other versions of this that other fantastic filmmakers have been tied to, I think we got the one that frankly we deserve.
There are moments in The Long Walk that I have a hard time remembering. Meaning I have a hard time when they pop in my head. Not that I can't remember them, but when I do remember them, I have a hard time. I need those memories to get out because it's so uh dark. Like especially at the very beginning with Roman Griffin Davis, and just seeing a child sobbing and yelling, "It's not fair," before getting summarily executed is just, and that's not even the worst one. Like it gets more harrowing. I was watching it and you get to like the end of the first hour and you go like, okay, I understand the rhythm of this now. How can they possibly make this worse? Like it feels like this is as dark as we're going to get, and then it goes further. And the reason it's a special movie, I think, is because at the core of it, around all of this darkness and all of this fascist posturing that is forcing these boys to do this thing, you have this incredible friendship forming. Like it's The Long Walk, but it's also kind of Stand By Me. Because Cooper Hoffman and David Johnson are just so wonderful together. David Johnson in particular is one of my favorite performances in any genre film this year. As not Ray, Ray's the other guy, as Pete. Pete is his name. Uh, Ray is Cooper Hoffman's character. They're both incredible, but David Johnson in particular was the soul of this movie for me. And yeah, anytime you can get Mark Hamill to put on some mirrored sunglasses and just be like, you are just a total piece of shit, Mark. Go do it. He knows how to nail that. And he absolutely nailed it. Francis Lawrence, I think this is the best movie Francis Lawrence has made, and I say that as a fan. Uh, I love what he did with Constantine. He made very good Hunger Games films. Um, this is it feels like everything he learned from making those kind of movies poured into this. Didn't make my top 10, possibly because I saw it really late and I was kind of already like the list was kind of already where it was. But yeah, I love The Long Walk. I'm glad it's up there for you. And we already talked about our number ones, our respective number ones. My number two is Weapons, which we also already talked about, and then it was Sinners for me and The Ugly Stepsister for you. So
Hell yeah.
that brings us to the end of those lists. Before we wrap up, though, I did want to ask, like, who are your like honorable mentions for the year that like almost you wrote a top 20, so you kind of already have some of these written down. But yeah, what are your other favorites from the year?
Yeah, I really want to stress Bone Lake because like it, Black Phone 2 is right there. I've got, some of the bigger titles right on the cusp. But if I'm gonna go with the stuff that really surprised me and kind of put me in a good mood for being discoveries, let's say, Bone Lake really if you've ever seen Spoonful of Sugar, Mercedes Bryce Morgan is the filmmaker, and Spoonful of Sugar was her first movie, very psychosexual, very kind of traumatizing in a sleazy kind of way. Bone Lake is a much more fun version of psychosexual and traumatizing in a sleazy kind of way because it takes the basis that I'm sure we've all thought about. You know, we're renting Airbnbs sometimes, and what if you're double booked? And so it's a giant Airbnb, it's double booked. Both couples are like, we can share it, no big deal. Where it goes from there is just a delight to unfurl. And it is a lot of great back and forth with the cast. It's twisty, it's silly, it's mean, it's good.
Yeah, I saw Bone Lake. I think it played Fantastic Fest last year, and I got sent a screener for it and was like, all right, I really thought I knew what this movie was going to be because yeah, like you said, it starts with a pretty familiar premise of like, okay, there are these two couples. One of them's going to be normal and one of them's going to be crazy. And you're that's sort of true, but also you're not ready for where this thing goes. Yeah, Bone Lake is great. I also feel like I should shout out Steven Soderbergh's Presence,
Ooh, yeah.
which again didn't quite crack my top 10, but I loved the like formalism of that film. I loved the way that he was dedicated to like they tell you it's going to be a horror movie from the point of view of a ghost, and it absolutely is that, and then it goes all over the place from there and it comes up with an amazing way to end all of that. Um, I really love Presence. I also loved, like all the stuff everybody loved. Like I thought Companion was great, and I liked The Monkey a lot. And it we all watched the big ones, and I think we came away pretty fortunate this year. Like you were saying earlier, like the studio films really came through.
Yeah. I would
Uh,
say that, and I would also say before we get away from it, you're a Deathstalker fan? I feel like you were Deathstalker all the way,
oh
right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Doug
we got
Deathstalker.
like Deathstalker was a great one. I think was fun. I think underrated. There's a movie called Getaway, which played Fantastic Fest last time I was there, and it's Nick Frost, and he is this. He's playing like the everyman. He's playing the dad on vacation with his family who's trying to keep everyone upbeat, but there's something not right about the island they're on, and I don't know if I want to say where it goes in the third act because that is the joy of it, but I think Getaway was slept on.
It really was. I ended up watching it on streaming, and yeah, the last like 30 minutes of that movie are just insane shit. I had so much fun with that. Also, got a shout out because it finally got a theatrical release this year. The Toxic Avenger,
Oh, right.
super
Absolutely.
fun movie. Really had a blast with that one, and they raised a bunch of money and paid off people's medical debt. So how can you not love that? Um, oh, that so hey, we just gave y'all like 20 movies or something that you should go watch. So you should be pretty busy heading into 2026. Matt, before we let you go, will you let everybody know where they can find you online?
Yes, I can. You can find me, Matt Donato, at Donatobomb, DonatoBomb. And that is primarily Blue Sky, Letterboxd, and Instagrammed. Just playing around with TikTok. So, hey, if you want to go over there as I start to ramp that up, sure, why not? But yeah, hit the socials. I will tell you where all my reviews are going because, as Matt said, they are a smattering. So follow me and I'll tell you where my writing is every week.
Yeah, go follow Donato online. You will find out about a lot of cool horror films, especially if you also follow Certified Forgotten. Super fun podcast. I may or may not pop back up on there sometime in the near future. We'll see. Our guest has been Matt Donato. It has been so much fun talking to you about horror movies, man. Thanks for being on the show.
Nah, appreciate it. Thanks for putting me on.
Thanks once again to Matt Donato for being on the show. Everybody, go check out Certified Forgotten. Follow their website, subscribe to their newsletter, follow the podcast, download some episodes. You got one with me on there and a whole bunch of others with great horror critics, horror actors, filmmakers, all kinds of rad people from all over the world of horror on Certified Forgotten, and a lot of really cool film critics as well. Great show. Go check that out. And if you want to keep track of all the cool stuff we have going on, you guessed it, you can follow us on Blue Sky. We are at scareshapedus.bsky.social. We're also The Scares That Shaped Us on Facebook, and we are The Scares That Shaped Us on YouTube if you would like to listen to your podcast that way. If you enjoy the show, please do us a big favor. Go to the podcasting platform of your choice and leave us a 5-star review if you are so inclined. That helps us tremendously to grow our listener base, which we are hoping to continue doing here in this new year. You can also email me if you ever have a question or a recommendation or anything else. You can email scaresthatshapedus@gmail.com. We also have a newsletter that has been very, very quiet lately because I've had some crazy stuff going on in my life. But the newsletter is at MatthewJacksonWrites.com. That's writes as in WRITES. That is where you will find a lot of horror writing from me, stuff about this podcast, stuff about authors I like, movie reviews, 31 consecutive essays on John Carpenter's Halloween. If that's your thing, those are all over there to read for free. Put in your email. You can also chip in $1 or $5 or whatever a month to help us out. Make sure we're keeping the lights on over here at Scares That Shaped Us HQ, but you definitely don't have to. You can go over there and enjoy all of that free content. That is it for us this week. We will be back next week with the first regular format episode of 2026. Y'all are going to be very excited to hear from next week's guest. So, until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Happy New Year. I'm Matthew Jackson, and this is The Scares That Shaped Us.